everyone. We're so happy to open our church up again for public worship, and we're excited to welcome everyone back for prayer and the sacraments. So we wanted to send out a video explaining what it's going to look like when you come in. That would probably answer a lot of questions you might be having. So the first thing that we want to remind you is that we're doing all that we can to minimize any risks. We can't eliminate them completely. So we're doing our best. We ask you to do your best and just use respect for others as we come to worship together. Most of them are the normal things that you've been hearing, like 6 feet separation between non-family members and encouragement to wear masks. We know that some cannot for many different reasons, so know that some may not be wearing. We just ask that you respect their distance if they choose to do that or if they have to do that. So the first thing, when you come into the church, you'll see these signs. You'll see later when we go into church, the different color codes on the pews. What that does, it allows us to, between masses, give enough space between people so there's at least 6 feet between you. It also lets us know which pews have been used at each given mass so that we can properly sanitize them. I know it's a little clunky, but I think it works out the best. So as you come in, there'll be a sign here and a sign in the narthex telling you what color code of pews we ask you to sit at during that mass. It will change each mass, so be sure to note that as you come into mass. Now we'll move into the narthex and show you what you'll see there. First of all, I want to say I'm sort of casual today. I'm very casual today because we've been working to get some of these things together for all of us. And around here, like every day has been Casual Friday for the last couple months. So that's why I hope you don't mind. I'm casual today. I'm going to read from notes. Just want to get all that stuff out there. It's not going to look real sharp or professional, but hopefully we'll be answering a lot of your questions that you might have coming in. First, I want to remind you that the bishops of Ohio have dispensed from the obligation for Sunday Mass until September 13th. So all through the summer, we have all of that time that we might get accustomed to coming back to Mass in a new way. It also allows us, for anyone who is vulnerable in any way because of age or health conditions, that if you have a concern, we actually encourage you to stay home because we don't want to put you at risk or other people. So reminder that the dispensation has been granted by the bishops through the summer until September 13th. So I ask that you respect that, and especially in maybe a given weekend. Maybe you're not always homebound or always at risk, but any given Sunday, you might get up and you've got a cold, you're coughing, you're sneezing. Ask that that's really a time that you might normally come to church in other times, but in this time, if you wake up on a Sunday and have those conditions, ask that you please stay home. And all of those times that you stay home during this time, again, the dispensation has been granted, so you can do so without burden of sin or concern. So again, what we've done our best. As you come in, you'll see that these doors will be open so that especially at the end of Mass, not everyone is funneling through one door, that you just, again, give proper respect and the common sense as you leave, just to give some space between you and the next group of people. So that's why we open these doors that remain open throughout the summer so that we can lead Mass in a safe way and a respectful way. There are hand hygiene stations throughout the narthex. Ask that you make use of them as you come in and as you leave. It will be helpful too if you have some of your own. We ask that you bring them from home if you can. If you don't, obviously there's some here that will help us keep our supplies in good shape. So if you can, bring a little bottle with you at home. These stations will be in the narthex for your use before and after Mass. As we go into the church, you'll see again the signs in the different colors. There are 4 different colors. That allows us, again, the time to sanitize as we need to throughout the Masses of the weekend. So as you come into the church, as well as here in the narthex, there's the sign saying which pews, and we really ask you to respect that. You may be used to sitting in a certain pew. That's a pretty minor sacrifice. Everywhere in the world is making sacrifices, so we know we want to respect that. If you're used to a certain pew, please, during this time, for your safety and safety of others and the respect of others, that you follow these color-coded signs that will tell you which pews to sit in. Also, hand sanitation places here with a receptacle to receive the paper as you're done. As you know, these past few weeks, when we've had to live stream the Mass and not come into church, we've had a very, very successful food drive from 10 to 12 each Sunday. And appreciate all that you've done. We've been able to supply multiple food pantries with supplies, and we want to encourage that to continue. It may not continue in the same robust way as it has, but and I know many of you are in the practice when you come into church to bring a bag of canned goods with you. Normally that's been over by the door there, but we've moved around here to give us more space. So as you come in, if you wish to bring a bag of groceries with you, to go to our food pantries, invite you to find this spot here in the narthex to place your goods. Hopefully it overflows every Mass, so that's where we have lots of space here. We'll also provide chances for us to remove some if we need to make more space. So we want to encourage that and continue to help feed the poor through our St. Teresa outreach, and we'll take care of all of that to get it to the pantries that they need to go to. We will also, following the 11:30 Mass, if you wish to bring larger quantities, as many of you have, we will do a shortened food drive after the 11:30 Mass. So from 12:30 to 1:30, either after Mass you can pull your car up and it will be over by the tent, which normally in the past, that's where we've had clothing drive collections, so we recognize, just look for the small tent over in the parking lot. Encourage you to drive up to those, and we'll have volunteers there to remove the food from your trunks. So that will be each Sunday moving into the future from 12:30 to 1:30. As you come in, the bulletins will be here on the table, and also the Magnificats, which have been very popular. So this is the place where we'll have the bulletins. Encourage you to take a bulletin with you into church, especially the music will be in there as well as the readings. So encourage you to take those with you. We do ask, because we'll have already the need to clean and sanitize the church, anything you take in with you, the bulletins, the Magnificats, please take them with you home. And then if you wish to throw them away at home, please do so. That will eliminate some of the need to clear up anything that's left in the church. So please, bulletins, Magnificats, anything that you bring into the church, please take home with you. On the weekends, know that our restrooms will be available. And because there's the extra need of sanitizing, we ask that you do your best to use the facilities at home before you come as best you can. If there is a need to use the restrooms, they will be open. We just ask that we limit to 2 people or 2 families, family groups count as one, in the restrooms at a time. Because Bishop Brennan has asked us to be careful not to exceed 50% of capacity in our church, when we reach this point, if we need to, we will offer a second Mass at the same time. Father Smith and I will always be here every weekend, so whoever is having Mass in the church, if we begin to reach that 50% capacity in the church, we will start a second Mass like we do at Christmas and Easter here in the social hall. You notice the chairs are set up, but they're spaced differently than we normally do at Christmas and Easter, obviously to respect that space. So again, if there's a need, we will start a second Mass here in the social hall. We'll put a sign up in the narthex saying, please go to the social hall. That will allow us, we really don't anticipate the need to turn anyone away once we reach that capacity. So those will be utilized as needed. One other detail that will be changed during this time will be the absence of holy water, because again, the contamination person to person. So for the time being, there will be no holy water in here. And so just ask you to come into church maybe to do something to maybe make the sign of the cross without the holy water, just to remind yourself of the sacred space that you're entering. So we're now going to go through the Mass, start to finish, and point out some of the things that might be changed. So the first thing, our Director of Sacred Music, Stephen Smith, would like to share with you how we're adjusting as far as music goes for our liturgy.
So like Father Black said earlier, our role here is we are trying to mitigate the risks as much as possible. We cannot eliminate them completely, but we will certainly do our best to mitigate them, and the music will be no different. So one of the first things you'll notice that when you walk into church is that there's no hymnals in the pews. So we have 2 different ways that we are making the music and the readings available to you. The first way is inside of the bulletin. We'll have a table out in the narthex where you can pick up a bulletin. It'll just be on the inside, and starting on page 5 with the Angelus, have the readings, it will have the hymns for the day. Also, the bulletin will be online. So on our Thursday flock note, it will get sent out in PDF form. So if you'd like to print it off and bring it with you, you are certainly allowed to and able to do that. Another thing that we have put in these columns and around are these QR codes. So each of these codes, you simply pull up your phone camera, scans the code, and it takes you right to the PDF, and it allows you to use that PDF on your phone or mobile device if you would like to do so during Mass. Again, it'll have the readings and music for the day. Also, there have been lots of discussions and studies about what to do with congregational singing and the possible risks involved with that. And so we are going to be, as a music program, doing a little experimenting in terms of what we have for music and how we use that. So one thing, for example, is we have eliminated the closing hymn. So at the end of Mass, following the final blessing, we simply would ask that you exit in an easy and safe manner, nothing that's stressful, nothing that's rushed. And so eliminating the closing hymn will allow us to do that. Another thing that you'll learn about soon is that the offertory procession will not be happening like it typically does. Everything will just be happening up at the altar. So we won't have enough time for an offertory hymn, so we will be singing the offertory antiphon, which is the prescribed antiphon for that Sunday. So, like I said, things will continue to change, things will continue to evolve as we move forward and as we learn more as we move forward in the weeks and months ahead. Finally, I know this parish has a tradition of singing very heartily, singing very well, and I just ask that while this is a great thing, I ask for now that we just sing modestly, sing sort of in medium volume or so. That way, this ensures that there isn't too much air being spread out to those around you, and that the 6-foot distance remains a relatively safe distance. However, if you do feel uncomfortable attending a Mass with that kind of singing going on, or maybe that slight added risk that singing would bring, our 7:30 Mass is going to have very little to no congregational singing at all. So if you feel like that is an added risk that you do not want to take, I would like to invite you to attend our 7:30 Mass. So like I said, these changes will continue to evolve in the music program, but I hope you are still able to find ways to participate in the music at Mass, and I look forward to seeing you all back here.
As we're now in our church space, one more detail is that the vigil candles are in place, so we encourage you to use those as you have in the past to offer to the Lord the prayer and special intentions that you might have. So we're moving into church. You'll see the pews, the color-coded sheets that will allow us, again, to sanitize. That's been used, and also for our lower attended Masses, there'll be one color of pews. For our larger Masses with the new times, the 9:30 and the 11:30 Masses, we anticipate to be more crowded. So we'll be using two different colors, but there'll be alternating spaces, like green and white will be the colors. So there's space in between. So again, watch as you come into church, that will tell you which pews, but you'll see how wonderfully decorated our pews are now with different colors, but that will help you to know where to sit comfortably. We'll move on into our sanctuary space, and notice, if you can, on the video you'll notice when you come on Sunday, if you're able to, that we have all new lighting system in the church. It's much brighter, much more efficient, so we got rid of the older system, and that when you come in you'll see a much brighter, cleaner looking church. So we appreciate all the work that was done and the sacrifices made to provide that for us. So in our sanctuary we made some adjustments. One, you'll notice the seating. At each Mass we normally have up to 4 servers, but we've scheduled just 2, just because for one thing, there's not as many of them. There are not as many things for them to do. So we'll just be using 2 servers, which will have proper space between them. We've also adjusted the presider's chairs so that we have that space. As we come in, one of the changes is that, so we don't have to have the server standing in front of the presider with the missal. The missal will be in place here on the altar. So the priest will come here and do the opening rites from the altar. So the book is here for them. Also, all of the sacred vessels that we need will be here at the priest's side, so that they can move those themselves. So from that point, Mass will begin and proceed as normal. The next change will be the elimination of the offertory procession. The gifts are already here at the altar. We will return to that because that's an important symbolism, how the gifts are brought forward from the community. But for now, we'll eliminate that and return to that when we can. So there'll be no offertory procession. Also, there'll be no collection. That's an important part. You're a very generous parish, and we need those resources to do the work that we do. So encourage you that when we will have no collection taken up, but we are in need of those funds still. So if I can talk about that for just a moment, this might be, many of you have signed up for electronic funds transfer, which is the easiest way to do. So there's plenty of information in the bulletin and on our website about how to do that. That way you won't have to worry about that at all, and we'll be able to receive the funds that we so much need. Instead of the collection, the ushers at the end of Mass will be in the narthex, much like we do for the Fifth Sunday collection to help the poor. So they'll be in the narthex with baskets, and encourage you to place your collection there as you leave the church. As we move on through the liturgy, the next change will be the sign of peace. The bishop asked us to temporarily remove that rite so that we're not communicating with one another in that way. So as the liturgy goes forward, the priest will say, "The peace of the Lord be always with you," and you'll respond, "and with your spirit." We will then go immediately to the Lamb of God. Communion, I know there's probably a lot of questions about receiving communion. We will receive communion only in the form of the host. The distribution of the precious blood is discontinued until further notice. So there will be, in the normal spots, the two side aisles, will be Eucharistic ministers and clergy to distribute communion. As you come forward for communion, encourage you to take your time, allow that space between you so that you are able to come receive communion and in a way that makes everyone comfortable. Again, we encourage the use of masks. Those who are wearing masks, when you come up for communion, we ask that you take the mask down before you step forward for communion. That way, as you receive, and we encourage as much as possible to receive communion in the hand. That just makes it a little bit safer way to distribute communion. So as you come forward, remove the mask or lower it so that once you receive communion, you won't have to try to hold the host and try to get the mask down at the same time. So I encourage you to lower that mask if you're wearing a mask to receive communion, and then once you receive, you can place the mask back up where it was. Following Mass, at the end of Mass, as Stephen mentioned, there'll be no recessional hymn. The clergy and the servers will leave the sanctuary and invite you to follow us after that in a patient way and a slow way that everyone can get out comfortably. It's normal here after Mass, especially since we've been apart for so long, to want to visit, to share, and so we don't want to say you can't do that, but after Mass, as you do that, first of all, please practice safe spacing, as well as keep it to a minimum. You know, the bishop has asked us to really not, to try our best to keep from large groups gathering. So we want you to visit, we want to say hello, but do so in a respectful way. As you know, for the past several weeks, we've been live streaming Mass from the rectory, and many of you have joined us in that way or watched it later on in the day or from a website. So we encourage all of your support of that and your wonderful comments about those Masses. So it's wonderful to be back here in the church, but Bishop Brennan has asked us where possible that we continue to live stream for the benefit of those on any given day, maybe sick or for our homebound. So we will be making an effort to do that. It requires a good bit of equipment, so we may not have that up in time for this first weekend or two. We will get that in as soon as possible with the equipment, which will allow us to live stream every Sunday, the 9:30 Mass. So first of all, know if you're coming that there will be the video going on through the Mass. We will try to respect your privacy as much as possible, but we will be live streaming each weekend at the 9:30 Mass. All right, so just a few more details. One, we've had many questions about the Expanding the Foundation campaign and where we stand with that. So I'm happy to say that we are at $3.4 million in pledges so far, which is a wonderful place to be. when all of this came about, obviously we had to pause that for a while, but I wanted to assure you that we will pick that campaign up again because it's a very needed addition to our church space. The staff at Guidance and Giving assured us that they would return when it's the proper time to help us to restart that campaign. So know, first of all, that we will intend to do that. Our intention was to start sending reminders for those who made pledges in April, but obviously that would not be the right thing to do right now. So we will at some point begin that again, and we'll be giving plenty of you information about how we start that. Some have been asking if they can go ahead and send, and some have been sending their pledge amounts in. If you wish to do so, please do so, and be assured that any of the funds coming in for the Expanding the Foundation campaign are completely separate from any other funds in the parish. So what we've collected so far, what you might send in on your own to start that pledge will always be separated from any of the church funds. So we will be continuing that probably sometime in the fall. I want to thank our staff has been amazing through all of this, through working from home, through providing whatever we can for our parishioners to continue their growing in faith. So I really appreciate our staff, our clergy, and our parishioners have been very patient with this. And our maintenance staff has done an amazing job to help provide all the supplies that we need to start public mass again. So I especially want to thank our maintenance staff for taking care of our facilities and the necessary supplies for each weekend. So again, thank you for your patience with us through all of this. We've done the best we can. Some things may be a little different for others. We know that some people are in different places when it comes to all of this. So we've tried to follow the directive of our governor and our bishop as best we can to provide some of these changes. We know it's not going to fit perfectly, but know that this is the best design we could come up with, and know that all of this is going to be temporary. So we continue to pray for healing for our world, and as we come together to worship, ask your patience and your joy-filled hearts to come into our church, maybe in a different way, but no less respectful and no less reverent of what the Lord has given for us. Thank you, and may God bless.